Unions raise standards across the workplaces and entire industries, pushing up wages and strengthening benefits for everyone. That's why strong unions are critical to a growing economy and growing from the middle out, the bottom up, not the top down. That's especially true as we transition to a clean energy. 16 million people had already been approved. The money was literally about to go out the door. And then Republican elected officials and special interests stepped in. They said, no, literally snatching from the hands of millions of Americans thousands of dollars in student debt relief that was about to change their lives. You know, these Republican officials just couldn't bear the thought of providing relief for working class, middle class Americans. Republican state officials sued my administration, attempting to block relief, including millions of their own constituents. Republicans in Congress voted to overturn the plan. I think every one. I don't think I had any Republican votes for this plan. At the same time, think about this. We all supported the Paycheck Protection Program, remember? PPP, you know, which was designed to help business owners who lost money because of the pandemic.
20 taxes. Several changes from 2019 tax returns could make you eligible for more stimulus money. If you had a baby in 2020, if you claimed another dependent in 2020, or if you made less in 2020 than 2019. And don't worry, you won't lose any stimulus money if you made more in 2020. But be ready to wait for your check. The IRS has until the end of the year to send plus-up payments.
If you don't get it by December 31st, then it will be on your next year's tax return.
Another reason for delay? If you didn't have the correct amount of stimulus money.
Low-income families can also get stimulus checks this year. The majority of taxpayers received their refunds in November, though some people are still waiting for money. The State Revenue Service said that those are eligible who have not received the checks yet should just wait by December 29th to receive the stimulus, if you haven't gotten one already. And it still needs to clear several steps before it becomes law. Last week, the mayor said that he'd revealed the details of the plan to send monthly checks from Missouri to low-income families. The plan calls for using $5 million in federal crisis aid to send $500 to families for 18 months. Now, around 3 million Massachusetts residents are set to receive tax rebates worth around 14% of what they paid in state income taxes. Folks, get ready for stimulus, it's here. I finally have some good news about the fourth stimulus check, and this time it is the truth. There is a ton of information that I want you guys to know about the fourth stimulus payment. A ton of news that you have to cover. The rebates will be sent directly to taxpayers' bank accounts through direct deposit. Otherwise, the rebate will be sent as a check in the mail for those who do not have direct deposit set up. The total received for the rebates is a set of fractions of one paid income tax, meaning higher earners will earn much more than that. A person who makes 35 grand will receive 200, while someone who makes $1 million would receive 7,000. There's plenty of time for people to file a tax return, as the deadline for this rebate is extended through September of next year. Prices rose less than expected, and the latest sign is that the runaway inflation has been gripping the economy even worse. The Labor Department reported again that the Consumer Price Index, which measures a wide basket of goods and services, rose just 0.1% from the previous month and increased 7.1% from a year ago. Economists had already been expecting a 0.3% monthly increase and a 7.3% 12% monthly rate. So the increase from a year ago, while above the Federal Reserve's target for a healthy inflation level, was tied for the lowest since November. It excludes volatile food and energy prices, and so-called the Core Consumer Price Index rose 0.2%. Because as of January, while the average regular gas in the United States price is pretty small, the amount is cheaper than most of the prices that we saw last year. Average price for gas is already on January 13th is nearly the same as the previous week's average, but 4 cents higher than average from 1 month ago. Because according to data from the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the price drop is starkest when you look at the current average compared with peak prices, about a 34% decline since June. When you look back on further and compare current cost with gas price at the same time last year, it's now about 2 cents cheaper. Spot shortages can easily drive up the gas prices locally because of refinery or pipeline shutdowns or just blending issues. But big nationwide swings in the price of gas are almost due to the price of crude oil. And new data from the Energy Information Administration shows that the cost of raw crude oil typically represents more than half of the cost of a gallon of gas. Refining and distribution and tax account for the remainder. Over time, the price of crude oil has just significantly increased with supply and demand, many factors affecting both, but recession, crisis, and higher prices tend to tamp down demand. Gas prices in the pump rarely affect the market day conditions. Instead, they represent costs incurred per per week, folks. So what does this mean? Because gas prices are smaller, does it mean that we'll become getting stimulus checks anytime soon? Well, here's my answer to that. First of all, drivers in Hawaii, California, Washington, Nevada, and Alaska are seeing the highest gas prices, and food prices have also increased 0.2%. It marked a slowdown relative to the increases that had been seen for most of the year. Compared with a year ago, it was 11.8%. Versus 6.5% overall for all inflation items in the index. In an interview with CNBC, the CEO of Kroger said the company expects grocery inflation to remain relatively high this year, but to ease as the year progresses. A good growing season for farmers around the world will contribute to easing inflation pressures because eggs have been one of the most categories that have seen the most inflation, with prices up 11% in December, and even in November things were high too. So recently the House did pass a bill to seek lower gas prices by cracking down on alleged price gouging by the energy companies. This Consumer Fuel Price Gouging Prevention Act grants the president authority to issue emergency proclamations and make it illegal to increase gas, energy prices in excessive and exploitative ways. Yeah, people are exploiting people for stimulus checks, but that's definitely not cool. Instead, it is very bad and wrong what President Biden has done. Folks, here's what I'm talking about. The Biden administration and Democrats in Texas are the nation's top energy producing states. They were also aware of this bill. In the days leading up to a bill to support this vote, well, it was unclear whether the bill even has enough support to pass. Moderate Democrats were frustrated with the bill. Democrats in Texas see the nation's top energy producing state wary of the bill, and they fear legislation could be targeting the industry and pretty much unfairly without proof of actual price gouging. Gas tax holiday, for example, would have removed all taxes on the cost of gas, but the president reconsidered rebate cards, which is another option to provide millions of people relief at the pump. So, I am in support of this, and I do think it's a good idea, but it's definitely not enough because Joe Biden should do more for the people in sending out stimulus payments. If you guys agree, then be sure to subscribe.
The baby. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ann Williams-Isom, and I'm the Deputy Mayor for Health and Human Services. And the mayor doesn't know this, but this is a very special speech for me and a very special week for me. My oldest daughter is getting married on Saturday. It's been very interesting, all of the emotions that I've been having. So while we go to pick up the wedding dress this afternoon, I can't help but think about my ancestors and all of the women in my life. My mom, my 92-year-old mom, who I would have wanted to be here today, but we're trying to keep her safe to get to Saturday. And all of my grandmother and all of the women that have brought us to this moment. Today, we're talking about women's health. And I think I've told this story before, but my grandmother died in childbirth with my mom. So when we talk about in New York City in 2023, that still 9 times, it's more likely for an African-American woman is 9 times more likely